What do you think others would say you have done for this sport?
I guess a lot of people say that Natalie Cook and I, as a team, have sort of put beach volleyball on the map in this country by winning Olympic medals. And I totally agree with that. I mean, it brings the sport to the forefront. As an indoor volleyball player, I think I brought playing for 10 years before I even started playing beach volleyball. I think people would look back and go, she was a great spiker, attacker. I was very strong at the net. I was always aggressive at the net. I never sort of pulled back and let the opposition, you know, intimidate me if I got a ball that was high, and I'd always be up there hitting it as hard as I could. And I took that into beach volleyball, which was very successful for me. Because on the beach, you can either be a hard, strong attacker, or you can be a bit more of a technician in that you can place the ball exactly where you want it to be. And when there's only two people on each side and a lot of sand, that's a good skill to have. So I was never really great at placing the ball exactly where I want it to go, so I just hit the leather off it. And so even if I hit at somebody, they still had to try and control it.
I want to get a sense of what this being the best phrase means to you, because you've said all the way through that whenever you attempt something, you just try and be your best, whatever that means. Yeah. What does that mean? Because of course the image is, well, winning a gold medal or winning a world champ or whatever it is, but what does it actually mean to you on a day-to-day level? It doesn't necessarily mean winning a gold medal in everything I do. It's just being the best. I strive to be the best at what I'm doing. Yeah. So whether that's being the best that I can be, not being the best in the world necessarily, unless I get to a point like with volleyball, we realised that that was a possibility, so we went for it. But, you know, if I'm just making a coffee, I won't do it half-heartedly. I'll do it the way I think is the best way to do it. You know, I won't give something 50 or 80% effort. I generally will give something 100% effort. If I'm cleaning up, I'll clean up everything. I won't leave a few things lying around. I mean, you can class that as being anal and being a perfectionist, and I guess, you know, it is in a way, but I'm a high achiever. I just like to do things really well. Because what does it give you?
What does it give me? It gives me satisfaction that I've given the best effort. It gives me rewards, such as, you know, Olympic gold medal. It gives me, and going back to my bullying again, it gives me the love and maybe that I'm looking for from somebody else, or not the love, maybe the accolades or the attention in a positive way. So instead of bullying me, they're saying, wow, you're great at volleyball. Yeah. So it makes me feel good. It makes me try even more. Yeah. You know, it's great encouragement. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Absolutely does. Yeah. So in the same vein, what is your version of failure? What's your definition of failure?
My definition of failure would be not trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, would just be, you know what? Yeah. Not trying. And when I'm coaching, if I've seen my player do something or perform a skill in a certain way, I know they can do it. Yeah. If they then don't do it again or again or again, I'll be like, why? Why don't you just try and do it the way you've just done it? Why give a half-hearted effort or not be 100% focused on trying to do it the way you've just done it? Because the way you've just done it is going to win you points, matches, tournaments, medals, whatever. So I kind of treat myself like that. If I know I can do things a certain way, I really feel guilty almost. Guilt is maybe a driving factor there. I feel guilty if I don't give it 100% effort. Like I feel guilty if I don't return someone's communication because they're communicating with me the right thing to do, and the etiquette and the, you know, understanding and relationships and everything like that, the right thing to do in that situation is to get back to them. They're communicating to me, so I need to get back to them. I think it's incredibly rude when people don't return phone calls or emails for whatever reason. I just don't get it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense to me. Yeah, makes complete sense to me. But I imagine it wouldn't make sense to a lot of people because they just go, oh, it doesn't matter. There's
people
other
don't
circumstances
care.
around it. Yeah, it's about care, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about caring about doing the right thing and being respected. You know, it really irks me if I've done something where I think someone won't respect me for that. So, you know, I see a lot of athletes out there that are doing the wrong thing and getting reported about in the media, and they're terrible role models, and I don't get that because I just always wanted to make sure I was a good role model as well for the kids. One person that I did look up to was Monica Seles as a volleyball player, and when I went to the '96 Olympic Games, I saw her in the food hall. She was there playing tennis for, I think, the US. Was she playing for the US?
She would have been at that point.
Yeah. But she was there playing tennis, and I thought, well, I think it's fantastic how she was able to come back from being knifed in the back, and you know the courage it's taken her to come back. I really admired, and I went up to her and I asked her for an autograph. And of course, I was among quite a few other people, and she was just trying to have lunch, and all I wanted was for her to autograph my Australian flag. You know, my first Olympics, and I guess when I look back at it now, it probably is a pain in the neck for someone like her, being at the Olympics where you're surrounded by other elite athletes, to have to, you know, can't even finish your lunch. But she didn't look at me. She autographed it. She just sort of went and handed it back and didn't even make eye contact. And I went, oh. I walked away and I was really disappointed. I really, really wanted to just meet her almost just for a second and make eye contact. And from that moment on, I decided as well, it really reaffirmed the fact that I wanted to be a great role model. And from this day, I will never, ever not sign an autograph if someone asks me, you know. And I'll always try and stay for as long as it takes to sign every autograph if I was, you know, playing or whatever. And I would be very careful about setting the right example for not just younger athletes, but also my peers, for them to respect me.
What's interesting about that example is that you were in the athletes' village of the Olympic Games, which you would assume means that you're all peers.
Yeah.
Yet you had elevated her.
Yeah.
You probably carried that elevation from your childhood.
Yeah.
Even though you're working in the same space, she was still so much higher than you in the hierarchy of your mind.
And we have that within the Australian team as well, because the athletes that are very famous, the ones that we see on TV in the sports that are more high profile, you know, everyone knows these athletes, and you almost feel like you want to, you know, you've got them on a pedestal as well. So the higher up and the more media you get in your sport, the more important it is to just do the right thing by everybody around you, I reckon. Because unfortunately in this country, we drag people down the minute they make a mistake. You know, you can do 100 things right and, you know, win 100 gold medals, and you have one loss, or you blow up at the referee, or you do one thing wrong, and all of a sudden, yeah, you're a villain. So you've just got to be really careful. Yeah.
In 1992, you suffered this knee injury, which was a fairly strong catalyst for you to then move into beach volleyball from indoor. What I want to understand about that time for you is how you coped with being dependent as a patient, as opposed to, you know, what you clearly are, which is a very robust and capable and independent woman. How did you manage that time?
It was really hard. I'd say I was pretty depressed for the first 3 months. I had played volleyball at that stage for about 12 years and played in Italy professionally for a season. I was hoping to go back. And when I wrecked my knee, like I did the best.
Yeah.
Like I always joke that, yeah, I'm always really good at what I try and do, and I really wrecked it well. I ruptured my cruciate ligament, I ruptured my medial ligament, didn't just tear them, I ruptured them. So they were just completely, you know, broken in half, and damaged my meniscus and my cartilage. So I did a mess. And the scars on my knee are quite long because they pretty much had to open the whole thing up and go, whoa, you know, and try and put it back together again. So the thing that made me realise it was bad, the surgeon who did it for me in Adelaide, he actually operated on people all the time and was one of the most well-known surgeons. And he said to me, oh, it's one of the worst ones I've ever seen. And I just went, you know, so that wasn't a nice thing to hear. So the first few months I was couch bound, and as you say, I was dependent, and it was really hard. I was really, really lonely because, you know, I had friends come over and visit, but I was on my own. I was in like no man's land. I was like, I had no idea where I was going, where this would lead, what I was going to do. You know, I couldn't even imagine playing volleyball again. You know, I couldn't walk for 3 months. I went from being on a couch for a month, not being able to put any weight on my leg whatsoever, and having to have it horizontal, because every time I dipped it down like that and the blood would rush down into my wound, it would be so excruciating that I couldn't bear it. So I pretty much sat on a couch for a month. So I was lonely, I was depressed, and then after another surgery, I had 3 surgeries in 3 months, and after the second surgery I was then on crutches, and then I was on a walking stick, and then finally at about 3 or 4 months I was limping around fully. So there's a long time of doing nothing and just thinking, and my boyfriend at the time was the saviour, because he came home one day. He was a school teacher, so he was into teaching, and he had some ideas of his own about how he could encourage kids when they were a bit down, and he came home and he gave me a brand new white volleyball. And I looked at it and I thought, you know, what am I going to do with that? And I almost started crying because I couldn't, as I said, I couldn't imagine even walking, let alone playing volleyball again. And he said, Kerri, on every panel of that ball I want you to write a goal, and then I want you to date that goal, and bit by bit I want you to try and get back to playing volleyball again. And I was 27 and I'd never set a goal in my whole life. You know, I'd probably had things in my head about it, but I wasn't writing them down all the time and putting dates on them or anything like that. And I thought, oh, well, I've got nothing else to do, so I got a marker and I started filling the ball out. Well, that ball became the centrepiece of the next 12 months because it represented what I wanted to achieve, and it sat in front of me every day and reminded me that month I had to do that. So it started off with running in water, riding a bike, a little bit of jogging, and then bit by bit the volleyball skills. So I tried to work out, you know, how long it would take. I figured maybe a year. I had a bit of an idea from the doctor, and bit by bit I just pretty much followed the ball, and things didn't turn out exactly like that. I switched them around or in my mind or wrote them down differently, but I had a date. I had like an end date. By a year's time I want to go back and play indoor again. And by the time that year was up, and obviously, you know, I was trying to do everything I could to get back, I realised I couldn't play anymore on the indoor hard surface because the injury had been so severe that it couldn't handle the constant pounding of 100 to 200 jumps a day on the hard floorboard. So that was when I decided to switch to beach volleyball. And I'd written that really small on the ball, just so almost so no one could see it, just in case. I wrote beach volleyball. And then I realised, because this was 3 years before the Olympics, the 96 Olympics, I realised that beach volleyball was going to be an Olympic medal sport in 1996 for the first time ever. And I wrote, oh, Atlanta, United States, 1996. I wrote that on the ball, and I'd never been to an Olympics, even with indoor, because we weren't good enough to make it as a nation. So I'd never even considered going to the Olympics. But for whatever reason I had in my head, I thought, oh, I need to fill that last panel in. I'll just write Olympics on there. And, you know, I'm not saying that because I wrote that ball on there, but because I had that thought in my head, what happened was I started playing beach after a year, and I thought, okay, this is good. I can handle this. My knee's okay. I started showing some signs of potential. Started playing with a girl. We started beating some teams from other countries at tournaments, and I'm like, this Olympic thing is a real goal that I can try and achieve. And yeah, off it went. And I think that's what people have to realise, that you've got to have a long-term vision, because otherwise you could flounder around for 20 years and then finally go, oh, that's right, I wanted to try and do that. But if you start thinking about it, even if it seems almost impossible, if you start thinking about it now, it's funny how life will just take you there, because the thought's in your head. It's somewhere in there, and you'll just make the right decisions almost subconsciously to take you to where it had to go.